Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to be diving into a genuinely fascinating philosophy. It's one that completely flips the script on everything we're taught about fairness, ambition, and success. We're talking about the concept of unconditional devotion, and this all comes directly from the writings of the Life 21 founder, Guy Shufang, specifically his 2017 essay, Give and Devote Unconditionally. It's a text that really challenges us to rethink our deeply ingrained habits of giving, what we expect in return, and how we measure cosmic fairness in our day-to-day lives. To really wrap our heads around this material, we're going to trace a clear transformation arc today. We'll start off with the problem with purpose, define what unconditional devotion actually is, explore the universe's energy balance, dig into the power of detachment, and finally look at the ultimate spiritual reward. We've got a lot of really interesting ground to cover, so let's just jump right in. All right, section 1, the problem with purpose. The essay kicks off by pinpointing a very common, everyday human experience as the literal root cause of our suffering. Shufang sets up this stark dichotomy right out of the gate. On one hand, you have the ordinary person. And, when the ordinary person gives, it's almost always utilitarian. We give because we expect some sort of return on our investment. That could be a financial return, a favor, or even just someone patting us on the back. But on the flip side, you have the Mahayana wish. This is rooted in the Buddhist concept of seeking enlightenment purely for the benefit of all beings, not just yourself. Their devotion is entirely selfless. They just give and they expect absolutely zero in return. So why is that normal, purposeful giving considered a trap? Well, think about it. Remember the last time you went completely out of your way to do a massive favor for someone and they didn't even bother to say thank you? Stings, right? The text argues that when we give just to achieve our own goals, and those goals aren't met exactly how we pictured them, we fall into this incredibly painful, exhausting cycle. We get angry, we complain, we feel resentment, rage, and eventually we even blame ourselves. And carrying around all that heavy emotional baggage, it makes it virtually impossible to reach life's true spiritual pinnacle. Moving on to section 2, defining unconditional devotion. If transactional giving just leads to misery, what's the alternative? Well, Shufang introduces a foundational philosophical remedy. He introduces this concept called formless almsgiving. It's defined as devotion that is selflessly given without aiming to attain any material object or utilitarian purpose. The absolutely crucial word here is formless, because the giving isn't attached to some rigid, specific expectation of a reward. It literally cannot be disappointed. Shufang argues that this specific type of devotion has the absolute greatest merit. Merit so huge it's almost impossible for an ordinary mind to comprehend, precisely because it completely lacks a selfish objective. But what are we actually giving here? The author breaks it down into 3 concrete levels. First, you give your material wealth, your physical stuff, your money, your resources. Now, if you don't have that, you move to the second level, giving your spiritual wealth. That means sharing your knowledge, your joy, and your wisdom. And finally, the highest level. You give your soul wealth. This means offering up your purest spiritual energy and your unadulterated love. So true devotion actually spans all of these different dimensions. Which brings us to section 3, the universe's energy balance. Now, I know what you might be wondering. You're probably saying, wait a minute, if I give all my material, spiritual, and soul wealth away and expect nothing back, won't I just be left with nothing? To answer that fear, Shufang presents a really fascinating cosmological rule, and it's all rooted in the concept of zero. Zero represents the ultimate perfect balance of the universe. The text states that the sum of all positive and negative energies in existence equals exactly zero. Everything is perfectly accounted for on a grand cosmic scale. And because of that strict energetic math, there's an inescapable law of return. The more you give, the more you will receive. Shufang points out that this isn't just poetic language, it's practically physics within this belief system. Giving naturally guarantees receiving because the universe must maintain its zero-sum balance. In fact, he argues that if it weren't designed this way, the universe would have collapsed and disappeared a long time ago. But hold on, we see people give without getting anything back all the time, don't we? The text actually acknowledges this by contrasting 2 different ways of seeing, the mortal eye versus the Dharma or Buddha eye. The mortal eye only sees immediate, obvious transactions. If I hand you $10 and don't get $10 of value back right away, my mortal eye assumes the Tao, the fundamental path of the universe, is just unfair. But the enlightened eye, it sees the hidden corresponding gains of true devotion. Through that enlightened perspective, handing over that money might not yield a financial return at all. Instead, the universe balances the equation behind the scenes. You might suddenly gain health and safety, you could entirely alter a really bad karmic trajectory, or you might literally be storing up wealth in heaven for the afterlife. The return is absolutely guaranteed, but the universe chooses the currency, not you. Section 4. The power of detachment. Trusting in this invisible cosmic ledger? Yeah, that's not easy. It requires a radical shift in how we interact with the world around us. There's this one quote from the text that just brilliantly captures this shift. I love you whether you love me or not. To love is my business, not to love is your business. Isn't that striking? It demands complete emotional detachment from the reactions, the gratitude, or the reciprocation of others. Your action is literally the only thing you control, so you just have to give freely. Building on that, Zhu Feng makes a pretty challenging point. Life Chan Yuan places a massive emphasis on building an idyllic, utopian community. But the text says that even if you spend your whole life building this beautiful utopian Xanadu, and someone else just comes along and unjustly destroys it, your spiritual mandate doesn't change one bit. You don't dispute it, you don't argue, and you do not confront them. You basically mind your own business with zero regrets, knowing your cosmic ledger is perfectly secure. Okay, finally, Section 5. The ultimate spiritual reward. Where does this incredibly demanding path actually lead us? The essay wraps up with a really powerful paradox. The selfish path, where you try desperately to secure your own gains and protect your investments, actually just locks you in chains of endless pain and unmet expectation. But the selfless path, where you abandon your ego and stop demanding things from the universe, that is ironically the only way to accomplish your true self and achieve genuine freedom. The text claims that as you let go of your ego, you undergo a literal spiritual transformation. You attain true unselfishness, which completely unlocks profound happiness. Ultimately, Zhu Feng writes that hitting this state elevates you from just being an ordinary person into a celestial being, a Buddha, or even a god. You transcend the whole earthly plane simply by refusing to play its transactional games. But here's the catch. Reaching that ultimate state demands one monumentally difficult thing: absolute faith. You have to firmly believe that the greatest creator and the Tao have a perfectly fair arrangement for everything in existence. You have to be willing to accept whatever life throws at you, even if it's severe hardship or grinding poverty, without a single complaint. You just have to trust that the zero-sum energy balance of the universe is working exactly as it should. As we wrap up this explainer, the text invites us to stop focusing on what the universe owes us. Instead, Zhu Feng asks us to look in the mirror with this crucial, self-reflective question: have I unselfishly devoted my material, spiritual, or soul wealth today? It's a real call to examine our daily actions through that lens of pure, formless giving. And I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought straight from the source material. It challenges everything we tend to believe about ambition, asking, if I don't give anything unconditionally, how can I possibly have a better tomorrow and future? It's a profound way to look at the mechanics of karma and devotion. Thanks so much for joining me to explore the depths of this philosophy today.